Now I would like to invite Alice Ferguson. I would like to invite Simon Battisti. Carolina, would you also like to join us, please? Blanca, please come back to us.
Jenom pro připomenutí, protože přece jenom...
And just to remind you, Simon Battisti was talking about school streets and how the city is being modified through School Streets project in Tirana, Albania. Alice Ferguson talked about playing streets in the UK, talking about a grassroots movement that redefines how people think about streets and children in the public space. Carolina, she really is the person who helps school streets happen in Prague. And Blanca has already introduced what they do. I might be switching a bit between English and Czech, so hopefully we will manage smoothly.
When you started, have you thought that we will sit here today talking and motivating hundreds of other people to join the movement of creating more space for kids in streets?
No. But I do remember sitting with one of the other parents, one of the other mums who we started this movement with, and saying, somebody needs to do something about this situation with children. And we were sort of sitting there going, is there anybody, like, there must be an organization out there that's tackling this problem, and then thinking, actually, there's not, and maybe that needs to be us. But we didn't think, we didn't realize that Play Streets, that specific model, would become so successful and spread so much. No, not at all. But it just shows, just try something, just do whatever you feel like doing, and maybe it will be the right thing at the right time.
Be the change you want to see around. No? It's one of the sayings. Simon, when you started in Tirana, and looking back from today's perspective, what makes you most happy about what has been achieved so far, and what is coming probably?
Well, it's very satisfying to see, it's very satisfying to see how people use the space, basically. I think it's really, I think it's what's motivating, motivating me and the team, I would say. I think, as all of us know, this work can be really difficult and extremely tiring, and it's not very fun to stand up and present that side of it for people, but of course, this is something that we've been at for many years, I mean, I think about it constantly. It's on my brain constantly, and I think that I think this kind of work it beats you down. You get yelled at all the time. There's a lot of opposition to it, and the perseverance is the only way to ever see results. And but you get them, actually. I think it's really important to point out that I think everybody who we've heard from here, and everybody in this world who's doing this kind of work, I think would agree with that. That if you stick with it for long enough, you're gonna get to see the kid running down the protected street. So it's really that's really what is.
There was quite a vivid picture to watch and wait for the kid running down the street safely to school or out of school. How far have you progressed in Prague? You feel you've progressed in Prague, Kaya, with the program, please. What has changed since the very first school street?
Well, we have got 8 new school streets to this September, which is a great success. 5 of them went completely around me. I didn't know about them until they have started. It's Prague 7. But 3 of them I have more or less followed, and I'm proud of them. I'm proud of the people who made them, who cared for them, and who I hope will push them into the future. So this is good, this is good. But still, I feel only like someone who gave the tool to those who need it, nothing more.
Can you see any opportunity to accelerate the change, not only in Prague, maybe outside of Prague as well?
Well, there is going to be some cooperation with the road safety people on the Ministry of Transport, I suppose. Looks like that. And well, I feel this topic not only a school street, but everything what is connected to the road safety around schools, and it is connected with other topics like health and activity, physical activity and things. So what I would like to is to widen the topic of school street into that wider range. Yeah.
Good, fingers crossed. Blanco, can you help with that at least a little bit?
Would be delighted to do if they let us.
That's like a clear call for action from cities around the country.
I think school streets are, perfect tool, but it's just one of them. You have to consider the broader environment probably, and to think about kids that they really need to have the liberty, have the freedom, and that they are allowed to go outside, not just to shift from the perspective that kids should be somewhere in the park. Just Alice showed on the picture, behind the fence, so that they don't bother us. To, the culture where they are allowed, they are welcomed, and it's their city as well. And that's something. It should be our goal.
Sometimes we feel like we expect children to behave like adults, be responsible, look left, right, and then first step, and only to enable adults to behave like children, speeding through the city, stopping on the crossings and stuff like this. Which, Alice, you face that in your programs all the time, I believe. The backlash in that sense.
Yeah, do you mean in the sense of people not wanting children in
well, why should we do
space?
something for children? Because they should be careful enough, or should we educate the children how to behave?
Totally. I think it's another vicious cycle, like you said, is the fact that we've pushed children out of streets and public space, so they've become less visible in society. And therefore, we don't think about them. We don't consider their needs. We don't really understand them because we don't see them. We don't see the way they behave. We do treat them as if they are just little adults. And we forget that actually children are much more playful. They're much, they don't walk in a straight line. It's like all these things that are just different about children. We need to be creating space for that and creating the right environment to allow that behavior.
Are there any questions from the audience before I go on with my list? I don't want to let you slip this opportunity. Oh yes, Mike's coming.
I would like to ask Alice, on your presentation, Play Street, whether this measure is, because you mentioned that there are many play streets all around the UK, and I wonder whether it's permanent measure or they have to ask all the time, or you just, because you showed a form to fill in and to send to the local authority, or for how long it lasts, or if you have to apply several times, and if it's like every day between 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. So,
yeah, good question. So each council has its own policy, and they do vary a little bit. But the usual policy is that you have to apply each year for a whole year of closures, and it's usually maximum 3 hours per week. And you can choose which days and which times, but that's the norm. But we would like that to kind of develop to be more flexible and longer term. So actually in Berlin, they are almost a step ahead, even though they were inspired by our model. And they have permanent signs on the play streets, so fixed metal signs at each end of the street. And where they have those signs, they don't need to keep reapplying every year. It's just assumed that it will carry on. So yeah, so they're a step ahead. But ideally, I suppose we want to get to the point where you can do it any day, whenever you choose, so it's less restricted.
Thank you. Another question here.
I have a question for Simon. I noticed that your project in Tirana was made on low budget, and I want to ask if was your idea, which makes the success, or it was from the town hall saying, okay, you can do it, but we don't have much money, so it should be like economical solution.
I think it's really important that they're kept inexpensive. So that was kind of part of the thinking the whole time. Yeah, you know, because it's true that the annual municipal budget of the city of Tirana is quite low, considering that the population is 900,000 people at least, you know, who we know about, and so with a really low budget, so money is tough, and our belief from the very beginning that every school needs to be protected as soon as possible put us in a situation where, in order to achieve that, it was obvious that they would have to be cheap. And if we presented some kind of expensive, the Cadillac version, it wouldn't, you know, maybe we get one, and then but it would stop because they would tell us we can't do it anymore. So. Which we actually see, you know, a lot. I mean, I think a lot of the work that we did with the maintenance department, you know, it was very much also about making projects that are sustainable, that, you know, aren't going to fall apart super fast. Like, that was kind of really the best part about it, is that if it's literally built by the maintenance department, they know how to take care of it the longest too. So that's another part of the calculation, is how long do these things last? And now that they've been in place for a little while, we can really get a much more clear understanding about the durability of materials and at what rate do they deteriorate. You know, maintenance is, we understand that cities are in a constant state of deterioration. That's basically what cities are. They're just constantly crumbling, and we have to spend a lot of money to keep them updated, and that's an annual budget. And in order to reduce the amount of maintenance also, so that this street can remain in a serviceable condition, it's really important that they be designed in an intelligent, you know, in a delicate way, let's say, given those constraints. So for us, you know, I think just the most important realization is that what is needed by kids and caregivers is so simple. You know, like, for example, we don't even bother with any play equipment anymore. We used to think that we should fill the space with slides and stuff, you know, kind of, even if they wouldn't be used that much, that it would be important for people to understand that this is a playable space. But you really don't have to give kids any prompt. It's like you were saying, it's like it's just no cars. That's it. You just know cars, and you maybe you put some chalk, or do some other stuff, but like, really, kids, that's the best thing about free play, is that kids will just play. You know, they just do whatever they want. So the cheapness, the inexpensive quality of just bricks and protection, that's really it. Was really, I think, a recipe for scale throughout the city.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Please.
Yeah, I have one question to Alice. it actually was quite interesting for me, this combination of cars and kids playing on the street. That is kind of a little bit different from Simon. And I was just thinking if there was not any concern from the owners of the cars that their cars will get damaged. So that's one thing, or scratched, or maybe ball games are not allowed, or so a little bit about this potential conflict in the space. And the second is maybe connecting to the question before. So it's typically weekdays or weekends, like these closures. Is it typically Saturday, Sunday, or is it like working days?
Yeah, on the days, it really depends. So we started it as an after-school thing. That was the idea. But a lot of streets now do it at the weekend because there's more parents around. You have to have a certain number of adults to make it work, to just make the space safe. So a lot of people do it at weekends. What was the first bit? Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, ideally you wouldn't have any parked cars on the street. It would be nicer. So it's a compromise. What we usually do, or advise people to do, because it's not us going out and doing it, is to tell everybody on the street that this is happening and say you might want to move your car. So we give people the opportunity. It's not a threat. It's not a threat.
So the damage was a choice then,
yes,
by design.
Exactly. But yeah, it has come up as, people think that there's going to be a risk. But the reality is, out of thousands and thousands of play streets, it has not happened. I think we've heard of it once, where a scooter scraped a car out of like tens of thousands of streets. And we do advise people to just use like softer balls, like just be sensible. But yeah, it's much more of a worry in people's heads than a reality.
Kyle, may I ask, from yesterday and today, we've heard a lot about tactical urbanism being fast, moving fast, being flexible. We try to make the conference as practical for our audience as possible. What was one of the lessons that really caught your interest from all the other speakers that you think, this is great, we should have it all around the country, or at least around Prague? Was there something that really caught your interest from all the other presentations?
Well, all the presentations were great.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking for, yes.
To be precise, I'm trying to go through the units and set the book from the spring. I haven't finished yet. It's so full of ideas which are so similar to my experience from Prague. There is always something new to learn. And now we have heard so many things which refer to the same thing. One practical thing I'm bringing back from these 2 days, which is maybe a little thing, is that global guide of redesigning streets, or how was the name, which is in English yet. But I think this is something we could take right away and just enclose it to the manuals we are trying to make at the moment. Something which would help the designers to design, to do their work better. So this is one practical thing. If you gave me more time, I would probably make up more and more things.
No, this is good, this is good. I mean, we try to make it as practical as possible, and you touched a point. Maybe the engineers are not doing bad job by purpose. They have been only educated this way, and giving a better manual for cities for 21st century would be one of the help.
Of course.
Yeah.
The word is good.
Yeah.
And people are probably doing their best, but they need the tools.
Yeah. And of course, if you've been educated 30 years ago with books from 60s of the last century, one cannot expect these types of engineers to come up with the most progressive solutions for the 21st century city. This is one of the themes of the conference, I believe, and you sum it up nicely. Blanco, do you see anything that was really interesting? Because you have, compared to Alice and Simon, of course, you have the contact with the Czech realities of 2023.
Well, what I go home with is one thing, and it is we never reach 100% agreement, and it's no good to try for it. I mean, there is always going to be someone unhappy. You know, we are this mothering thing, and we always want everybody to be happy and convince them that it is the best solution and that they are going to be happy. But, you know, we have to accept that there are people who are not going to be happy, and that's it. But we believe it's a good thing.
That's cool, thank you. Can we pass the mic actually on? Because speakers as well, of course, you've been very carefully observing the other speakers as well. Simon, what was one of the things that, not that you wouldn't know it, but still refreshing, what was one of the highlights for you of the yesterday and today here in Prague?
Yeah, well, again, thank you to the organizers because it's just so nice to be in such a focused group. Of course, I'm aware of all of these people, you know, for a long time, and it's amazing to not only meet them, but also be able to speak next to them and share the ideas throughout the day. But I think like a big takeaway is just like that so many different scales of this same work is taking place, you know, and in so many different contexts. And I think it's really important for all of us to sort of refresh this idea and make it public and, you know, talk about these things publicly and make it really clear that there's something, these are options, but it's also, it's sort of mandatory that this happens now.
The new standard?
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is where cities are going, and that's just how it is, actually. And so all of us need to be agile and creative and come at the problem from our own direction. But this is where we're going. We need to undo car dominance. It's just required. And all of us need to do it, and we need to be recruiting a lot of new people into our efforts all the time, and not only be making the case for why, but just have more and more sort of practical use cases about how we do it, how it's done, what the reaction is, and be able to really speed up these efforts because we're all fighting against a very limited time now. And I find that this work is essential to all of our broader fights around climate, and that's really the urgency here. So when we talk about kids and early childhood development, really what we're talking about, and then we talk about drainage, and really what we're talking about is how we speed up cities' effective climate adaptation.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Alice, how about you? What were the highlights?
So many. No, I mean, I think like Simon, it's just really about hearing, you know, that there's so much going on that we can learn. We're not on our own. I think it's just that feeling is very, very good, especially for me at the moment, coming from the UK, where things are quite depressing, and our political situation's quite depressing, and it sometimes feels like there's no scope for changing things or progress. It's not a, you know, it's not a friendly environment to.
So there's still the feeling like, are we crazy? Are we the crazy ones?
Yeah, so it's very reassuring to hear there are other crazy people in the world. I think that's a good thing. And yeah, just like simple things like using paint and, you know, just going slowly, but not too slowly.
Awesome, thank you. Well, if I may add up, and that would be a wrap-up of the conference as well, I was amazed by the energy that all of you brought, not only here on the stage, as well in the audience, because that would not make sense without your input. So once again, thank you for bringing in the energy, your experience, the know-how. These are all technical nitty-gritties, but the energy you brought in, that was palpable here. and in the audience as well. So big applause both ways, please.